But Chico is the business.
Chico is the boonies.
Greg was thinking of it. So we went to Chico State to see what it looked like as far as opening another one. At that point it wasn't Raleigh's, it was whatever. And
Mezzo.
we got up there and Hazel and Bill were in town. So they said, oh, we're camped at Chico State Campground. We went up there, I think it was Greg and I, and we went to visit Hazel and Bill in their RV in Chico RV Park or whatever. They had 2 air conditioners on their thing, and it couldn't keep up. It was so hot inside the RVs, you couldn't stand it. And they had 2, you know.
How awful.
Yeah.
So Chico's not that great.
No, and we looked at a building, and it had a crack. It was brick, had a crack down the side, and you know it was for sale. We had the real estate people looking for us, and I can't even remember what we did there.
I think the closest I've been to Chico is that time we went camping with Jesse. And we were at some lake and...
Like Annandale.
I know. But I was not impressed. I felt like I was in...
The sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
So I want to hear about your education. Your 17 universities.
9 or 11. 7.
Oh, I thought 17. I'm exaggerating.
17.
I thought it was more than 7.
Well, I think it's 7. I just
So the way I remember it is, they're like, okay, so you took a test in the military, and they could tell you were smart. So they're like, okay, well, you're not cleaning the latrines.
You're not going to cut sheet metal.
You know, you're not going to cut sheet metal. Do you want to go to a university? And you said yes.
No, I think it was more like, you are going to the university. Forget the sheet metal. Get out of here.
This is after you took a cognitive test or some kind of aptitude.
I don't even remember.
They gave you some kind of aptitude test, and you.
Well, I know I went to boot camp, and just to learn to be a sailor. And while there, they said one day you can take those rocks over there and take them over here and put them in a pile. And when you finish, take that pile and take them back over here.
Like Kool-Aid and Luke.
Or you can take this test.
Yeah.
And I do remember taking the test, kind of. But the main thing I remember, we had to be interviewed by a psychiatrist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I could hear the guy in the room next to me, a guy I knew from boot camp. And they were talking to him, you know, what do you think about Mr. Bush surviving the torpedo aid attack on the Japanese Navy, etc.? And holy shit, I hope they don't ask me anything like that, because I have no idea. I mean, I can understand anacortes and the train ride and boot camp, and that's about how much I've been exposed to the world.
So they didn't ask you those?
I have no idea, but I evidently passed it,
yeah.
but I didn't know. So I go back to boot camp and finish boot camp, and I said, oh, you're going to be a sheet metal mechanic, I guess they call them, I forget, in Norman, Oklahoma, off.
And so then you were in Oklahoma, and then what?
And then they said, okay, now you're going to, you took this test. And
so you took another test in Oklahoma?
No. You've taken that test and passed the psychiatric stuff, and you're going to go to college at that really super college, Northwest Missouri State Teachers College.
So what was that to train you for the Navy?
just to send us to college and learn to speak English and
Okay.
take
Be an officer and a gentleman.
calculus, I guess. I don't
So
know.
then you were there a year, or
I think I was only there one semester. I kind of don't remember.
okay, so that's 1 out of 7, and then the next.
Jesus.
And I'm stretching the old memory
Well,
here.
then they said, okay, we're going to send you to Miami U in Oxford, Ohio. So I went there for a year, 2 semesters, and then they said, you can go to any school you want to. We'll pay for your tuition, etc. And I said, well, I want to go to University of Washington because I can go home to Anacortes from
Well,
there.
smart, very smart.
And they said, wonderful. Get there any way you can.
So how'd you get there?
I hitchhike rides on Air Force airplanes and
Oh, good evening. So,
Okay,
so,
so then-
at that point, were you on track to be a pilot, or
no,
not
well,
a sheet metal
yeah,
thing
it was,
anymore?
Yeah, on track to be a pilot. But then I went to the University of Washington for 1 semester, and then they said, oh, the war is over. We've kind of shutting down things, but we are going to send you down to Los Alamitos, which is right outside of Long Beach, California. They sent us down there, and what they sent us down there was to see if we could learn to fly. If we had the aptitude for flying.
So they stuck you in a plane?
Yeah, you got two wings made of canvas and
Oh my God.
started by going like that with a propeller.
Oh my
And
God!
then you run around and get in the cockpit.
No, there was
Someone else.
Someone else
Someone
pushed it.
There
Okay.
was a pilot and a student, and I mean it was basic. I mean, but the thing was, I don't know if you've been there. There's fog like this,
Yeah.
and if there's fog, you can't fly with students.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was there for 6 months, getting about 25 hours of flight time. I mean, can
It took
you
a long
imagine?
time. Yeah.
And they didn't know what the hell to do with it. The war was over. They still had the program going, etc.
But the Korean thing hadn't started.
No,
yet.
nothing. There was no war. No, nothing going
But there's something with your instructor saying, okay, now you get in it by yourself.
Yeah, well, what it was is the airplane had a cockpit and a cockpit, and the students in the back and the instructors in the front, and so you go out and you practice landing and turning in the air and not losing altitude while you turn, etc. And then you land, and he says, "Okay, you got it." He climbs out of the cockpit, and there were no runways. There were just mowed grass fields.
Mm.
And there you are sitting in the back seat. You can't see much because there's all that in front of you, the front car.
You don't switch to the front?
No, you stayed in the back.
Oh dear.
Oh my.
So
And
do-
off you went? Just
Yeah, just give her the gas and take it off.
yeehaw!
So do
Fly
you
around for-
remember any point where someone said to you, "Okay, you're not going to do sheet metal anymore. We want you to become a pilot"? I mean, do you remember that
No,
happening?
No, I'm making my Zeus key.
Yes.
And they say, okay, you can stop making your Zeus key. You're going to go, we're shipping you to Northwest Missouri.
And did you know why?
Yeah, because
They-
you're in it was called the V5 program
To become a pilot.
to become a pilot.
And were you really excited about that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Well, not really. I shouldn't say I was excited. I was excited about the whole thing. I mean, it was so strange to me to be away from Anacortes for
Right.
all my life. All of a sudden, I'm across country to Tennessee and Memphis, Norman, Oklahoma, etc.
So then somewhere in there you met Mary Lou
that was
years later.
many years later.
So you're in 2 universities. So then the third school,
University of Washington.
After Washington, they sent you down south to Southern California,
Yeah.
and then
Got my 12 hours of flight time.
With the fog.
in 6 months.
25 hours, whatever it was.
So then, what was your next educational? I know I'm pushing you, Bob. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, really.
We should be recording this.
I may get some of it out of the sequence.
Well,
No, it's okay.
At one point, I know he wrote down.
I kind of remember seeing it
Well,
on
I
the
have
yellow
written
pad.
down the schools, the sequence, and why. There's a lot of,
I bet that's in your desk, because I remember you.
could be.
Yeah. You wrote that down.
So let's see.
But at some point, you're dropping fake bombs in Tomales Bay,
That was after I got my wings and everything.
and that's out of Fairfield. You were flying.
No,
No,
no.
never out of Fairfield.
No? Well, where would you taken off to jump in Tomales Bay?
Alameda.
Alameda Naval Base.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then sometime along the way, those pilots, the French pilots came.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you
well,
went
I'm trying to keep track of my college. Okay. Then I went from Miami U to Seattle to University of Washington.
Then down south
No.
for flight training. After
Yeah, down to Los Alamitos for flight training. God, I just can't remember where I went to next. Along the way, I went to Florida, Pensacola, Florida, to Jacksonville, Florida, and got my wings finally.
Well, what does that mean? You can fly alone?
Yeah,
but it's still prop planes, right?
that's all they had then.
They didn't have the jets.
There's no jets.
But you flew jets, so they made jets, and you flew a jet.
Later, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyhow, so I went to Pensacola and Jacksonville, got my wings.
And somehow you taught the Frenchmen that were.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
The
brought 'em-
war in Algeria, right?
Yeah.
Did you go to France to teach them, or did they come
No,
here?
they came to. They were recruited in France to go to Algeria, and because Algeria was French-speaking country, etc., they just picked enlisted men to take over these pilot jobs. The war was over, etc. So all of a sudden they lose Algeria, and they got these guys trained and etc. ready hot to be pilots. So they sent them to the United States to become pilots. They had to go through pre-flight, which is all paperwork, learning about airplanes and et cetera. And they didn't, most of them didn't speak a word of English or read a word of English, and they all were very bright, and they all passed, every one of them, about 30 or 40 of them.
And at that point, you didn't speak French, but
No, but I did take French in night school, so I could talk to them.
A little
Somewhat.
bit, yeah.
But that was Tulane University out of New Orleans. Sent a guy over who taught French in Pensacola, Florida, to guys like me.
Oh,
So then, when did you go to Cal Berkeley? Because I saw your dormitory, or what do you call it, frat house. We were walking to a football game, and you're like, "Oh, I lived there."
Yeah, it was cheap.
So when did you go to Cal? I know.
Yeah, you're right.
At some point, you went to Cal
It's
to.
a long time ago.
Wasn't that after the Korean?
Yeah, the Korean War was over, and I was out of the military. And
Well, that's when you met Mom.
yeah.
Did she go to Cal?
Yes.
She graduated.
So did you meet her at
She had a
Cal?
master's degree in business.
Yeah.
For a woman to have a business degree in those
Yeah.
days,
That
Wow.
was unheard of.
unheard of.
Just amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mary Lou kicked butt.
So that was probably in 1954, 55.
I wouldn't have
Yeah.
any idea.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, but that was after my going to Europe and riding a motorcycle
Right.
around too.
And that was for a year. You rode motorcycles.
Well, I was in the Korean War, and it wasn't a war; it was a peace action.
Conflict.
Yeah,
Peace action.
And so after I finished that, I went to Pensacola to be a flight instructor, which I was. And while I was there, I decided to hell with this. I don't want to be in the Navy forever. And I got out and I joined my buddy and we went to Europe and motorized around in Europe till we spent all of our money.
On the motorcycle you didn't know how to ride.
Yeah, and I'll never forget, he had to borrow $66 from me to make it all the way home.
What did that leave you with?
Well, it probably
Zero.
left me with $200. You know. But I never forget, he had his mother in those days, you can believe this, was living with a guy.
Scandalous.
And he had to borrow money from that guy, who was the nicest guy in the world, to pay me back my $66.
He paid you back.
It's so
Yeah.
funny you remember $66.
Oh, yeah.
Like I would not
It was
remember
big
that.
money.
Yeah.
Geez.
Oh.
Okay, so you got out of the Navy before that motorcycle trip, but then you were in the Navy,
Well, I got out
After
of the
that.
Navy and came back to Cal
right?
and met your mother, etc. Got a job with North American Aviation in LA. And after a year, I realized I can't stand this smog. I mean, they were wearing gas masks
Gross.
to go to work.
So did you get back in the Navy then?
So I came back to the Bay Area and got a job at Frieden Calculating Machine Company.
That was the computer thing.
It was kind of a computer thing, kind of. But it was so basic. I mean, it was just a bunch of metal things whirring around that came up with an answer, you know, with nothing electronic. One of my first jobs there was to go around and see what everybody in the plant was doing. And one of them, I came across these 4 or 5 guys, electronics engineers or electrical engineers or whatever, sitting over in a little cubicle over here. And I asked them, what are you guys doing? I had to write up what they were doing, etc. And they were trying to come up with an electronic calculator.
Like a code of some sort or something.
Huh?
Like a code or something.
Yeah, and you know, do the electronic little
cool.
you know, little, what do they call them? A bunch of wiring inside of
A board.
wax. Yeah, a board.
Yeah.
And etc. So anyhow, I finished.
So how'd you go
and
from
while
that?
I'm there,
Mhm.
and trying to figure out what the hell I'm really going to end up doing in this world, I got a letter from the Navy saying, "Oh, we really, really need you back in the military
To do what?
to fly,
To fly,
to be an
okay.
aviator." And so I got hold of my 2 friends, Marv Holgren and Fred Newman, who were in a squadron at Alameda. And they talked to the commanding officer, and he wrote a letter to the bureau in Washington, and they sent me orders from back to the Navy to go there.
Okay.
And then I went to Korea and finished Korea, went back to Pensacola as a flight instructor. Got there and realized I don't think I want to be in the Navy forever, so I got out,
Again.
went to Europe, and
Okay.
then finished Europe and came back and went to Cal.
What about the now I'm losing track a little bit. So when did you go into civil service? So you left being a teacher and you got into civil service at the Pentagon and you were doing
I went to the Pentagon and
like calculating all the stuff you needed for an invasion and stuff.
and I left I got out of the job in the Pentagon in the military and went with civil service over to the Washington Navy Yard, which ran the computers for the Pentagon, for the Navy and the Pentagon.
And you were calculating like how many men and how much food and how many tanks?
My biggest job was it's called a war game. And it was, you could, if you want to add one airplane to Squadron 3, what's the effect on the whole Navy? And you need you need a third of a hospital corpsman over here. You need a eighth of a food server over here.
Like logistics, like strategic logistics. Yeah.
I mean, it was a huge program. I had about 20, 25 guys working on.
Under you.
Huh?
Under you.
Yeah. And I briefed, I don't know how many admirals and et cetera, and trying to tell them how wonderful a program this was, and I don't think they ever used it.
Oh, God.
They didn't listen?
Well, they listened, but it was kind of, they were too busy doing other things.
So that's when you all lived in
Arlington.
Lived in Arlington, yeah. Well, when I was in the Pentagon, I lived in Arlington. I got out, went into the civil service, then left everything and came to California.
What were you doing when you lived in Carmel and that house on the hill was like a Spanish? Because we went there and we saw.
We drove by.
It was up on the hill. It was gorgeous. What were you?
Let's see. Let me try to get things together.
It's okay if it's out of sequence.
It was a language. You were learning language. No. I thought it was a language.
You had kids. All the kids. You were there.
Yeah.
There's a huge language school there, but I didn't go to that. I went to the master's program. Did a master's
or computer science.
In what?
In computer science.
Okay.
So when you joke around, you say, "Oh, I have a master's degree in computer science." You actually have a master's degree in computer science. It's not just a bullshit story.
But there's my iPhone. Can you help me?
Tom, can you help me turn on my iPad? Yeah. So you actually got a master's degree. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
I'm trying to think how that occurred. Oh, I was I finished Korea and came back.
Had kids. A mom.
3.
Yeah.
But they would send you out. You were out doing missions or something. You'd be gone for 6 months at a time.
Yeah.
When you had the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even before I had them, but while I was having. I'll never forget. Greg was born when I was in Korea.
You were away. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm almost remembering. So anyhow, I finished. While I was on the admiral staff at Alameda, I got orders to Monterey to the postgraduate school. Finished that. Oh, it was interesting. I had orders to Notre Dame University, the ROTC school. And the night before, we're having a dance and everybody's saying goodbye. And the guy said, "Hey, you just got a change of orders in." I'd gone to remember in those days you went to AAA and got all the maps of how to drive from here to Notre Dame and etc. That's all I had done. So you got orders to the Pentagon. So off I went. We went to the Pentagon. You loaded you 3 kids in the back of a station wagon.
Give them a bunch of Benadryl and
a lot of Benadryl. Put a barrier up behind the front seat.
Piece of plywood.
There's no seat belts and mom smoking away in the front seat, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was part of a crib, a child's play.
Oh, just basically a a prison wall,
The cage.
For the kids.
Bars,
It was
for
a
the kids in
cage.
the
a
back.
cage.
It was a cage.
Well, it was,
Do you remember it?
we had soft mattresses and stuff
No, I
in
don't
there
remember.
for him. And then with Benadryl, you.
little macaroni and cheese. Oh, it's just fascinating, Fobhead. You know?
Oh, it was a go.
Yeah.
It was a go.
Yeah.
And then you were flying jets. Like they started having jets, so you had to learn how to fly the jet.
When I
Talk about G-force, a little change in G-force then, because you had the suit. You had the suit that pumped up your legs
Yeah.
with air.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to keep you from passing out.
Yeah. Keep the blood from going.
Yeah, so I mean that's a jet
Yeah.
because you're pulling G's.
Yeah. Really pulling G's.
Makes my life seem a little boring.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yours was so exciting.
Thane met this guy, Mick something. We went to a party at his house in Sonoma, and he belonged to a country club down in Palm Springs. Can't even think of his name now. So why am I trying to think of him? So, I know. So I got orders to a jet squadron. Where in the hell had I been before that? I forget. At Alameda. And I'd never been in a jet in my life. And so this guy, Mac something, who was already in the squadron, had flown a little bit. He comes out and jumps up on the wing and shows me how to start it. And that was it. That was my training and first time
Good
ever in a
grief.
jet.
Well, it's the same thing as the other planes, just a little faster, right?
Well, and then, I taxi out to the end of the runway and they get the clearance to take off. I hope this goddamn thing flies because the wings are back there and you're sitting out in front,
So you didn't even have a co-pilot or anything
No,
your first time?
no.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God, that's just not okay.
So I went up and I climbed, I got it at full throttle climbing up to an altitude, I'd say 30,000 feet.
I mean, was
And I
that,
fly around for a little while.
was that just such a rush? I mean, to be
Oh
going...
God, I'm so happy I'm having a grand time.
Oh, my God.
And then I realized I gotta come back and land and pull back on the throttle and slow down.
Oh, God.
And I kind of been told how slow to get it,
Oh.
but
And how much would that airplane cost in your life if you fucked up?
Oh,
I
I
mean,
don't know.
oh my God, I can't believe they were more cautious
$2
with,
million.
with teaching you.
Yeah,
They had faith in him.
Oh,
yeah.
but that just seems a little blasé. Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
So in the Korean peacekeeping thing, you flew 60 sorties
Yeah, with a bent wing
with the
prop-
Corsair.
prop plane.
It was a Corsair
Yeah,
60 times and landed it on an aircraft carrier 60 times.
hopefully, hopefully you came back and landed on the carrier. Yeah,
At night in a storm,
Ugh.
Oh,
snowing. Oh my
and the
God.
first time you ran out of gas
while taxiing up to the front to the
when you're
front of
old,
the
you
ship.
came down and ran out of gas.
Oh,
I didn't
God.
run out of gas. The guy gave me a cut the engine, and at that point I didn't even need it. The engine quit.
Oh. Oh my God. Bobby.
Bobhead.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service. Oh my God,
Oh,
gives me goosebumps. You know.
I have to tell one story. We had
Yeah.
5 squadrons, and one of the other squadrons, a guy, was a real wimp, a pussycat pilot. And his wife had decided that we had these helmets, plastic helmets, and she devised a thing where he could connect like a flashlight to the top of his helmet. And guess who's the one guy that went in the water right off the carrier? This guy.
And the flashlight saved him.
And they found him with no problem. A helicopter took one out and found at night. It was at night. and they found this guy. So anyhow, they
Did
said,
she patent that?
he should have.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we were all very interested in how he survived and while this thing worked, et cetera, et cetera. And so we all got together with him up at the front talking to us. And all he wanted to talk about was how Jesus saved him.
Oh.
He would not talk about the technical part of how he survived and
Oh.
Oh, that water must have been freezing.
oh, it was snowing and what have you.
But that was a different guy that could. So didn't somebody not get the grappling hook, and he went off the front of the aircraft carrier and then went underneath the entire aircraft carrier?
Fane met him, Fred Newman.
So he went, and then they pulled him out of the water after he went through the propellers.
Yeah.
So you go turn around to go get him.
We always had a helicopter hovering,
Okay.
so
So the helicopter went and got him,
I
and
guess.
he lived. He lived going
Yeah,
under
Yeah.
the aircraft carrier he was still in the plane.
Yeah. Well, I think he crawled out on the wing
After
being underwater.
scrape,
Yeah.
crawl out.
Ring.
Oh
There's
my
a
God.
What it was is when we took off, you went straight ahead and you left prop wash to bother the next guy going to take off. So one of the things is try to angle a little bit so that your prop wash didn't go straight back. It went off to one side. Well, he overdid it.
You put a little English on it.
He went too.
He went off the side.
And he went off the side before he had flying speed.
Yeah.
And he got down there, and as it went down, it picked up flying speed, and he went up like this, and went over into the front of the ship, and then boing, 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 go back through.
And you met him.
Fred, yeah.
Oh, I mean, talk
I met
about.
so many characters at this reunion.
And it's just a miracle that they're alive,
Yeah.
Oh,
including you.
Including.
well, I thought so many of his stories were BS. And
Yeah.
then they would say, "Oh, Ken, remember?" That? And I
Yeah.
went, "That's true." Oh my gosh!
It's like the big fish.
But this same guy, Fred, he and I were out flying in Korea, and he's flying on my wing, and we don't know what happened, whether it was a malfunction of his engine or rifle fire from the guys on the ground. And his plane started spewing smoke, et cetera, and he was coughing, et cetera, and we were way into Korea somewhere. And so we got on the emergency Mayday, got on the emergency radio, and they said, okay, we've got a rescue ship up in Wonsan Harbor. So flying with Fred up there, I kept saying, Fred, you can bail out here and still make it, but you'll be a prisoner of war. Or we can keep trying to make it
And meanwhile,
Wonsan.
smoke is billowing out of
The
his
smoke's
plane.
building out of his airplane. And he made it to there, and he landed in the water. And I've circled and watched him crawl out on the wing and stand there. A boat comes up and picks him up, puts him on, I think it was a destroyer.
He's like a cat with 9 lives.
Yeah, that was. We kept telling him, 3 more planes and you'll be an ace. you shoot down 5 bad guys, you're an ace.
Oh.
Man.
Wow.
I'd say that he was not lucky. I mean, he was lucky he didn't die, but
Very smart guy, by the way.
yeah.
He went to, I think, a university. No, I forget. A university in Chicago, whatever that is, with the ROTC. And while they're doing his job as an ROTC officer, whatever they do, train college kids to join the Navy, etc., he got a PhD in psychiatry,
Oh, whoa.
psychology.
Wow.
Yeah, he is very smart.
So when he got out of the Navy, he was a doctor of
He
psychology.
worked for 20, 30 years as a psychologist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Oh, you and your fellow.
Bullshit stories.
Yeah, but you all are so brave.
It's actually real shit stories.
Yeah,
That's some real.
Yeah, it's not bullshit.
That's some real intense
It's
shit.
like, you're just so brave.
Whew. You're so brave.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have been wondering where the snacks were on the plane, you know.
Oh God.
Exactly.
Where's snacks? Snacks.
Well, I still have the thing that you strap to your leg.
Oh, you do?
I have it, yeah. It's
With
like
the navigation.
compass-looking thing on it,
Yeah.
and it's a box, and it opens up, and there's like, you know, you got a pad of paper in there, like you're gonna
Yeah.
write some notes or something. I don't know, but I kept that.
Really?
I should have kept the helmet. You put it
Whatever
all,
happened to
you
it?
put it in a box. You put it out front on Tyler
Probably.
in Tahoe at Incline Village, and someone came by and took it.
Really?
Yeah, that's what you did. But before you did that, I was looking at it, I go, I should take that helmet. And the pants were there too.
What would you do with it?
I don't know, just
I don't
keep it and
know.
wear it for
Yeah.
Halloween, or I don't know. It's just intense. I mean, it's just like, it's incredible
Very
that it happened, you know?
The biggest bullshit story I thought Ken told me was you were in China? Hong Kong. You were in Hong Kong.
Are you recording this, Tom?
Maybe.
Oh dear.
He was in Hong Kong and his friend bought this Chinese junk.
Oh, I love this.
And you've heard this story.
I remember a Chinese junk coming out of the aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
They put it in the hole and they would go in there and play cards in the junk and all
I
this.
think there was a still in there.
There was a little bit of drinking went on.
Yeah, and cards.
Just a little bit.
I mean, the other guys were, but
Uh-huh.
So then they got home and the junk is coming out of the boat and the guy on the dock said, Joe, that's really nice. I'd like to buy that. Who owns it? And he said, I do. He sold it before it even,
Hit the ground.
yeah.
But wouldn't it have been like court martial time to have put it in
It
there?
should have been.
Yes.
To this day, have no
So-
idea.
I thought
Marshall time.
that was just the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard, that couldn't happen. And the first reunion I went to, sure enough,
It came up.
he comes over, remember the days in my junk? We're playing cards.
It was like a little clubhouse in the hall
Yes.
in the hull of the aircraft
Oh
carrier
my God.
with Corsair jets next to it.
I almost fainted. I thought, really? This is true? And they're laughing.
So were you good at cards were you good at cards in the junk? Were you winning? Did you play for like real money or you
Oh
just
yeah, but
a couple bucks?
yeah.
Yeah.
You could win or lose $50.
Oh, that
That's
was
a
a
lot.
lot. That's
Yeah.
a lot back then.
That's a lot.
Yeah. We had two guys. One later made admiral, by the way. Two guys got in a ping pong match.
On the ship.
I can't
Or at the
remember
base.
where they did it.
Okay.
To tell you the truth,
Mm-hmm.
must have been on the ship some.
Mm-hmm.
But it was when we go ashore, or they get this ping pong, and it's double or nothing. We get $10.
Oh great.
Double or nothing. Okay, oh, you get 20. Double or nothing. And I think it got up where a guy owed something like $7,000.
No.
Yeah. And finally, I think the other guy lost on purpose.
Oh, because he just felt bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh.
I mean, it doesn't take long to get to, say, $7,000.
Not when you're
I
doubling
mean,
it. Yeah.
even today, that would be a lot of money.
It is a lot.
So I just can't
I
even
mean, we were
imagine.
making, what, $400 a month around 500 maybe.
Oh, Jesus, that's like 10 years of your salary or something.
yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm going up.
No.
Yeah, sorry. Gotta do it.
Okay.
I'm just
Better take the cheese and crackers away.